Flames lock up Sharangovich long-term as they also dip their toes into the free agent waters. Hey everyone, welcome into Burning Questions. Rob Wong joined alongside by Postmedia Calgary Flames writers Wes Gilbertson and Danny Austin. And guys, it's been a busy last few days for Flames GM Craig Conroy. Of course, the draft on the weekend, followed up by the start of free agency on Monday. And Craig's been splashing the cash. We will get to the UFAs that were signed in a moment, but got to start with Yegor Sharangovich as he signs a 5-year extension worth $5.75 million per season. Danny, was this a fair deal for Sharangovich's services?
Yeah, it was 100% in my mind a no-brainer. I think that you absolutely had to get this done. I think there are people who want to nitpick at the various, each individual move that Craig Conroy has made. I don't. I think that if you look at the body of work, it's been, quite impressive. But I do think that acquiring Yegor Sharangovich for the last year of Tyler Toffoli's contract, when Tyler Toffoli was, not on the timeline that this team needs, it was an unequivocal home run. It was just it was a 10 out of 10 move. He came in. We forget that those first 2-3 weeks of the season last year, I think a lot of us were like, who is this guy? Is he any good? And then he ends up leading the team in goals. They were able to shift him to center, so we showed him some versatility at times throughout last season. And, he's in his mid-20s. So in 5 years, 6 years, when this contract's up, I do think, you can re-sign him again if he has fit in well with this young culture that you're building. But he's right on the right timeline. It means that you have sort of a first-line player, in my opinion, who's probably better on the penalty kill than some people are sort of acknowledging. So I think this was a knocked it out of the park. Piece of good news, and it's nice to see someone, no fuss, no muss, staying in Calgary a year out. He resigns, commits to the city, commits to the organization, and that's something that unfortunately, has been a little bit harder to do at times in recent years. So for me, this is just great news.
Yeah, I think this seems like really fair value on both sides. And, as Danny outlined, Sharangovich gives you versatility. He's strong defensively. He can penalty kill. And so, at that cap hit of $5.75 million, if he can't replicate the 30 goals every season, he's not a guy who's necessarily, overpaid. And listen, we know here in Calgary, and there's evidence all across the league of the dangers of negotiating with a guy who's coming off a career high season. Danny referenced Tyler Toffoli. Well, his ask was based on the best season of his career, and that's part of why the Flames balked at it. Jonathan Huberdeau is being paid based on the fact that he was negotiating coming off a historic season, and he's being paid accordingly. And so it's a tricky negotiation whenever you're trying to talk contract with a guy who's put up numbers that don't necessarily fall in line with the rest of his career. But Yegor Sharangovich is only 26. He's a guy who should still have plenty of prime years ahead. And I think both sides, both Yegor and the Flames, can feel pretty good about this dollar figure.
Yeah, absolutely. A tidy piece of business. Now, when it comes to day one of free agency, West, the Flames signed Ryan Lomberg and Jake Bean to 2-year deals and Anthony Mantha to a 1-year contract. Which of these deals did you like the most, and what do you think of each player's fit on the roster?
My favorite deal, and just because I covered his first stint in the Flames, and he's such a high-energy guy, is Ryan Lomberg. And, we've been watching him crowd surf in Florida with the Stanley Cup. If you search his name on social media, you'll see him chugging just about everything out of the shiny prize. But, he's going to bring a lot of energy and enthusiasm in his second stint in Calgary. And, the one thing that I've kind of hammered on with Ryan is at the start of his career with the Flames, he was a guy that he was a liability on the ice. He took too many penalties. The coaches were really hesitant to play him for that exact reason. And Martin Pospisil has potential to be more than just a you-know-what disturber, but I think Ryan Lomberg can really help Martin Pospisil learn how to walk that line a little bit, and that, for me, makes him the most intriguing addition yesterday.
Yeah, and I like all three, so we're sort of just choosing who to talk to more than putting them in an order here, if I'm being honest. But I covered Jake Bean back when he was with the Calgary Hitmen, and remember him sort of tearing it up and really looking like he was going to have an NHL career, that potential all-star type of guy. He was drafted mid-first round, and maybe it hasn't quite gone that way, but I think bringing him back into the organization, bringing him back home. Obviously, his dad was CEO. I thought it was interesting that Jake said he was not interested in signing here when his dad was working. So it his dad retiring sort of opened the door for this to happen. But I do think with the Flames losing Oliver Shillington, I don't know, maybe I missed it this morning, so I apologize, but I don't believe Oliver Shillington has signed anywhere. But we know that he was just looking for more term than the Flames were willing to give, and it looks like that door has closed a little bit. So I think Jake Bean can sort of come in and be that fourth or fifth defenseman. Maybe even down the road, maybe be that third guy. So I like that pick. I like bringing a Calgary guy home. I think that he has a loyalty and affection for the organization. He likes the city. There's a reason why he wants to be here. And I just think that that's exactly what the Flames, they're not going to be contenders next year. They're not going to be pushing the Edmonton Oilers for the Western Conference, unfortunately, as much as I hate to say that. But so you bring these guys in, and we just talked about Yegor Sharangovich. Yegor came in here in a year, proved that he was a guy the Flames wanted, and now you got big money on a big-term deal. So for Jake Bean, you got a couple of years now to prove that maybe you can be that guy. You're still young. You might be getting that longer-term contract in a couple of years. It's a prove-it deal, and I love that for the Flames.
And I guess Wes and a guy like Anthony Mantha as well on a one-year deal. Maybe you're hoping he is able to rebuild some of that value and get you something back in return like he did for Washington last trade deadline.
Yeah, absolutely. The Washington Capitals flipped Anthony Mantha for a second and a fourth at the deadline. And so, the appeal of Mantha is sort of twofold. The Flames want to see what he can do with Jonathan Huberdeau, a guy he has some history with because they work with the same skills coach in the Montreal area. And they also want to see what he can do on the power play. And then, if all goes well, you have a choice. You either flip Mantha, who signed a 1-year deal at $3.5 million. You either flip him at the deadline for assets, or you look and, do exactly what Danny was just talking about and say, geez, maybe this is a guy who can be a piece for us moving forward. Maybe we'll keep him around. But anytime you're talking about a 1-year deal for a proven commodity, you can't really go wrong at the end of it. There's just zero risk there.
Yep, some really intriguing options so far in free agency by the Flames. As always, you can leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Wes Gilbertson and Danny Austin, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.